Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So, what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Melissa Bunkers. Welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I am a nurse practitioner and a certified functional medicine health consultant, and I specialize in women's hormones, so helping women improve energy and manage stress and balance all of those hormonal issues, so regulate monthly cycles, things like that.
So what was obviously you're a nurse, so what was your interest in, like you and I talked before we hit record, and so you're transitioning from being a nurse to being more of a coach. So what was like your interest in the switch?
Yeah, so I've been in the healthcare field, the traditional healthcare field for over a decade. And, so with that experience I've seen a lot of experiences that just made me want to dig deeper. And, it's a lot of a pill for an ill type thing, and encountering people who do want to get more education on what they should be eating and how they should be treating their body, but not having enough time to spend with my patients. And so that was one huge thing. And then myself, I struggled after the birth of my first daughter with extreme fatigue and anxiety and mood issues, and just not, it was a huge shift in how I was feeling. And so I went to my traditional provider and they ran some basic labs and everything came back normal. But I was not going to accept that as an answer. And so that was really my first introduction with functional medicine. I really started to do my own research and came across functional medicine and healed my own body using specialty lab testing and supplements and diet and lifestyle changes. So that really made me realize that there's got to be so many other women who struggle with these things. And so that's kind of where I got, how I got to be in the position I am today. So
That's so cool that you didn't just like accept the answer, so in my family, every single woman in our family has a thyroid problem. And I've had them test my thyroid multiple times, and each time it says that it's fine. I'm like, that's so weird. How am I the only one that doesn't have a thyroid problem? I mean, I'm fine being, unique. Like that's, I embrace that. I accept it. But at the same time, it's like, it's weird too. And then having, dinner with a girlfriend of mine who works in a doctor's office, she goes, yeah, they didn't test you for the right thing. And I'm like, what do you mean they're not? Like, I told them my thyroid, and they're like, yeah, there's like the T3 and the T4, and they only test for the TSA. And I'm like, well, why don't they do it all? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I get that question all the time. Like, why won't they do it? And I don't know. I don't have a great answer other than, yes, some of the evidence, I suppose, as far as the scientific literature and things like that. And insurance often doesn't cover it. So you'd pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars out of pocket if your traditional provider ordered it for you. And so a lot of traditional providers just don't believe it's necessary. And according to the current guidelines, it's not really. But The more I get into functional medicine, the more I use my clinical experience. I always used to be, evidence, 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 and it's still a huge part of what I do with functional medicine, but there's no denying that after over, treating dozens of women now, that there's absolutely a reason to check a full thyroid panel and so many imbalances. So it's not that I'm looking for a diagnosable condition or a disease of any kind. It's just to check imbalances and
Yeah.
where we can optimize those. And that's so different than what traditional medicine does. They're not focused on the, optimizing things. It's more of, is there some serious diagnosable condition here? And so if that's not there, then they're going to tell you everything is normal. That doesn't mean you feel okay. And that's where I come in. So
Yeah, and there's so many problems in our healthcare system that I love that there's people like you that we can get answers from. And so what are some of the things that you would tell a mom to look out for that
mhm.
she would, or what are some of the things that make a mom come and or a woman, I guess you would work with women in general, not just moms, but we're talking to moms. So
Yeah.
what are some of
So,
the reasons that people reach out to you?
yeah. So extreme fatigue is one thing that's not improved by getting a good night's sleep. Um, Inability to lose weight or a lot of weight gain, irregular periods or heavy periods, painful periods, headaches, and just kind of generalized body aches, digestive issues, really just kind of widespread anxiety, I guess, is another one. So a lot of mood swings. Those are some of the most common things that women come to me with that don't always fit into a box of a diagnosis from a traditional provider. Yet women are still struggling so much with
Yeah.
these things, and they're just it really takes a deeper dive into some lab testing and education around diet and lifestyle to correct those imbalances.
Is there something that you would recommend that like every single woman should be doing, or is there just too many diverse? I know that there's no one size fits all, and I want there to be. So I feel like I always ask that kind of question. But
Yep.
is there anything that you recommend kind of universally?
Yeah, so I always have to be careful on recommending things universally. Just like you said there, everyone is so different. Your stressors, your past traumatic experiences, your nutrient status, your likes and dislikes for foods. But in terms of like lab work, is that what you're wondering about?
Yeah, maybe lab work or just like things to eat, things not to eat.
Oh,
You know,
mhm.
st- maybe general starting with a like, so I guess what I'm noticing is that um I just got back from the fertility doctor today, and I always watch my my blood pressure because my grandpa died of a heart attack. My mom has high blood pressure. I have high cholesterol. So I kind of just like watch the number, and I've been seeing it going up. Like I used to have a nurse say you have textbook blood pressure. So I have that expectation
Mhm.
every time I have my blood pressure checked, and like today the it was 120 over 89, and I was like, that's high. I
High.
went to the hospital at 140 over 90, you
Oh,
know, when
yeah.
I was pregnant. So it's like, but I'm like, I don't know what to do to fix it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, so in terms of just overall nutrition, well, in your case for blood pressure, magnesium, I can tell you right off the bat, magnesium is one of those minerals that a lot of us tend to be deficient in, and it can lead
Mm,
to high blood pressure. Other things would be hydration, so making sure you're well hydrated. And so that's kind of where a full health history really comes into play, just to kind of dig into all of that. But magnesium is a big being deficient in magnesium is a big cause of high blood pressure. So
interesting.
among many other things,
Yeah.
magnesium is super important for the body. But in terms of kind of all things or things that all women can do for good hormone balance. And these are things that I teach my clients, of course, more in depth, but managing your stress. And so really taking an honest look at your lifestyle and how often you're giving yourself a break from like the go, 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 do. And sleep has to be an absolute priority. So 8 hours a night. Getting in real whole foods. So a lot of us, or we're so busy that we pick up packaged things, processed, a lot of inflammatory foods with omega-6 oils and the fried food, the takeout, that type of thing. So really getting back to real whole food. And that's what I teach my clients. So it's not a strict diet. There are certain instances where people need to eliminate things for a period of time, not forever, unless you have like a full-blown food allergy. But so really getting back to real whole food. And so I always say, if it is a plant or has eaten a plant or ate a plant in its lifetime, that's a good choice. If it was made in a plant, by a factory, and it's not a good option. And eating, looking at the food label, things that you can read and recognize in the ingredients list, super important, because our bodies don't recognize all of those additives and chemicals and dyes as food, and it can cause an inflammatory reaction in the body, and inflammation can lead to a lot of the thyroid. First of all, hates inflammation. It's one of the first things to be affected by widespread inflammation. So real whole food is kind of my philosophy, getting a lot of healthy fats, so avocados and extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, that type of thing. That all on its own can really decrease inflammation and improve overall health for hormones, especially. The other thing when we're talking about hormone health is eliminating or reducing your toxin exposure. So many things in our environment contain chemicals and products that have chemicals in them that act like hormones in our body that can disrupt our normal body's hormones. And so it's not about never touching a toxin again. It's just about reducing your overall exposure. So things that you're slathering on your skin, that things that are touching your skin all day long. So things like laundry detergent, anything you're eating off of, counter cleaners, and plastic. So a good place to start is in the kitchen with your plastic food containers. Switch them to glass, a super easy switch, and it can lower your exposure to BPA and chemicals that can disrupt your hormones. So
that's super interesting. I just watched, I've gone down the rabbit hole on YouTube a couple of times, but I found a guy on YouTube who's a holistic chiropractor, who's a former Olympic athlete, and he's all about like sugar is not your friend. And but I was watching one of his videos about artificial sweeteners being the same chemically as pesticides, and I was like, what? That's so crazy that chemically that they're the same. And so I had a friend saying, oh, I'm cutting out sugar, so I'm drinking Diet Pepsi, and I'm like, oh, sweetheart, that's not better.
In that case, I would rather have someone drink the regular Pepsi, because at least the body recognizes sugar as an actual food, and all these other chemicals are just inflammatory triggers. Like, so most of our immune system, 2/3 of it lives along our gut lining, and for good reason. If you think about it, we're, eating and drinking things, so our body wants to, keep an eye on those things and make sure that's not going to harm us. And so when we're putting chemicals down there, that's an absolute trigger for the immune system, just a red flag. And then it can be widespread systemic symptoms, so anxiety, rashes, just widespread puffiness, and inability to lose weight. So a lot of it stems from that crap we're putting into our body.
Yeah. And it's sad the lack of information that's out there on, one of my guilty pleasures is watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and like the oldest sister got went down the rabbit hole of like all the things that are inside, the diapers and the wipies, and just like there's nothing that really informs us about
Mhm.
that unless you have nothing else to do and just spend all of your time doing that research. And I just don't like research in general. So maybe that's why I talk about it that way, but it's like who there's so few options for people who want to live clean. And one of the things that I had done before I got pregnant was I switched all of my cleaning products to Melaleuca, which is natural products made like there's no bleach in anything. It's made from lemons and stuff.
Yep.
And I washed my son's clothes and my clothes from before he was conceived till to this day. I stopped for a short amount of time and he broke out in the biggest eczema rash, and I switched back and the rash went away.
Mhm.
And it I thought, well, that's so interesting. And then I was wondering, did I cause that because I didn't expose him to it? But at the same time, it's like, well, as long as the company doesn't go out of business, it doesn't matter. Like he could just buy it for the rest of his life. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. So there really is like it is so much up to each person to kind of do their own research. And it's sad to say because the laws and the companies in our country, we don't regulate those things. If you look at other countries, there are a lot of chemicals and products that are outlawed, that are not even allowed to be used because of the harmful effects that have been shown to happen with use of those things. Yet here in the US, we're still using all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the list hasn't been updated since like 1917. And it's like there's been some research since then. Like
Yep. And they don't test anything proactively. It's all reactive. So really things don't get tested unless someone, I don't even know who or how you get to be that person that says, hey, this might not be, something's going on here and we need to look into this. So
yeah.
it's really a free for all. I mean, there are thousands of new chemicals every year that are being used, and there's no safety data on them whatsoever. So I always tell people when they're looking for products, making sure they're third party tested is always a good idea. And don't always trust things in like the mainstream, Walmart, Target, that type of thing, because a lot of things are greenwashed, meaning they'll put like that healthy label on them or plant-based or clean, non-toxic, that those don't always mean anything because
Yeah.
no regulation of what those labels mean. And so you really have to look at the label and see what chemicals are in there, and then unfortunately just kind of do your own research and see. So
Yeah, and that's what this chiropractor was saying, is that there's a lot of meat out there that says no hormones, but 85% of the hormones that are used in animals. And it's like, so the numbers don't add up. It
right.
doesn't make sense that all of this meat says no hormones, but
Yeah.
hormones are being used.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
It's hard to know what to trust, but yeah, that's why another resource for checking your products is ewg.org, the Environmental Working Group. They have a database of a lot of products, and so you can go on there and put in the exact products you're using, and they'll give you a toxin score. And so I always recommend using anything 3 or less on that toxin scale. And so that's a good place to start for people who are just kind of starting out and getting more curious about the products they're using. Um,
mhm.
you might be surprised to find that some things you're using might be upwards towards like 8, 9, 10. And then it tells you what chemicals are in there and the harmful effects and things like that. So that's a really good resource for someone who's wanting to do more research.
I'm gonna have to check my face products because I've been in direct sales for 12 years, and one of the things that they say is that they use the European standard of non-toxic ingredients because it's way stricter. And so I just, trust that because I trust the company. And then there's my thought was like, go with direct sales because a lot of the direct sales companies are more ethical, I guess, is what I want, in my thought process. And then I remember there's one lip product that has a toxicity level of 10. So I've heard of that scale before. I just didn't know where to find it. But it's like you can taste it.
Oh yeah.
I tried that product. It's like you could taste the toxicity of the product.
Yeah.
In comparison to what I've been using, It's crazy.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Something about, it's not about, never touching, like I said, never touching a toxin again. And my recommendation is not for people to go out and clear your cupboards and clear your pantry right off the bat and start all new. It's just when one thing runs out, to replace it with a cleaner option. And you can find that by going to ewg.org, or the Think Dirty app is another one. So that's kind of my recommendations for that.
So what is a piece of advice that you want to give to our listeners?
Yeah, so I would say being a mom myself and kind of going through it, do not accept normal as good enough, especially if you're struggling to get through the day, struggling with symptoms of fatigue and irregular periods and bloating and just, all of these different symptoms. If you're really struggling and not being able to show up as the mom that you can be and want to be, don't settle for normal as good enough. If you've gone to your doctor and gotten any labs done, really look for that provider who's going to listen to you first of all and dig deeper and be able to provide you the answers, and then work with you really closely to support you, educate you, hold you accountable to make those changes and to get you the results that you want and need for yourself, but also the people that you love and who depend on you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because it reminded me about the very little that they talk about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. So a mom in my life was diagnosed with that, where she like hyper focused on the nap time routine, where she would like insist that her son go down at a certain time. And it's like, you can't control when a baby sleeps any more than you can control the weather. You can create a system, sure, but like she was struggling, and there was no one really that was able to give her that, pointed out to her, I guess, or get her a resource or there's just no information. And one of my friends became a therapist for postpartum depression, and she's one of 2 in our town, and they're booked solid. They're so overworked because our system doesn't know what to do with it.
Right. Yeah. The resources are so limited. And so when you come across that provider who says, hey, look, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to do things a different way, absolutely take them up on it. If you come across somebody like that. But there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done, especially for women in that postpartum period, and just women in general. We go through so many different hormonal experiences in life, from puberty all the way up through menopause and beyond, and then with pregnancy and perimenopause. So there needs to be a lot more support for women. And so that's the basis of my practice and what I'm setting out to do. So
yeah, I love that. And I had one pediatrician, hit my son's very first one, that actually asked me questions. And that was a big catalyst for realizing that I had postpartum depression 6 months in, that, triggered a whole spiral for me. But it was a question that was, are you getting the support that you need? And I said yes. And my head, like the check mark said yes, and my head said no. And it was like, that created this awareness that I spiraled, and then I came back. But
yeah.
that was like, I felt like there's no support for moms, and that we're also very programmed to not ask for it and not value that individual support. And so I'm glad that you're here to support, individuals, and you're doing good things in the world. There's a bug flying around. But I see the value of what you're doing in the world, and the bug won't take away from that.
Well, thank you. Yes. I mean, there's a definite time and place for traditional medicine, and that's not to say, to say anything bad about traditional medicine, but just in my experience, I've seen where the gaps are in, helping, with these certain periods of life and hormonal changes and things like that. So
I feel like somewhere down the line, like there was, the Eastern medicine, and then we came here, and then we were like, well, can I just have a pill that will solve my problem? And so that's how our medical system has evolved, because, doctors have been saying, well, yeah, diet and weight loss will help a lot of your problems. And they're like, yeah, but can I have a pill? Like,
the big companies have created a pill for that. So it's like, they've built this quick fix thinking. And it's honestly, it's, in my experience recently, it's been more and more rare that you come across someone who doesn't come in just wanting that quick fix. And that's really sad. We really have to start holding people more accountable for their health and wellness, but also, it's twofold. It's, you have to take accountability for your own health, but then there has to be someone on the other end that's willing to help you and take the time to support you and educate you. So a lot of work to be done, but we're getting there.
We'll get there eventually, as more people, get to that, where they're wanting more personal development on social media and less funny cat pictures. We'll get like the algorithm will change, and the doctors will change, and but we have to take that first step, because it's supply and demand. The demand is, give me a pill right now. And so we have to look at our health differently, and we have to look at our bodies differently, and we have to be willing to put in the work, because I heard somebody say, I wish I remembered who, say that there's no shortcuts in nature. So I think it was that chiropractor guy, but when you take something and you change it chemically, like there's no shortcut to losing weight. If you do the stomach stapling thing, your health suffers. Probably you don't absorb magnesium as much.
Yep, that's part of it. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the principles that I teach are, you can go back, millions of years to the beginning of man, and our bodies are still programmed the same way. And so it's really getting back to looking biologically what, the fight or flight mode versus rest and digest. Our current society is set up to operate out of that fight or flight mode pretty much all day, every day. So we're never getting a rest from that stress mode. And that creates all sorts of imbalances and disease dynamics all on its own, just from living out of a stress state. And that's the way our bodies have always been. It's just the way our culture is evolving. Our bodies aren't equipped to handle that, and that's why we're seeing a lot more hormonal imbalances and chronic diseases and that type of thing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I don't know when Zoom decided that 40 minutes was you're done, whether
Yeah,
it's two
yeah.
people or more. Like it used to, two people could just talk forever, but now apparently not. So
Yeah, now we're gonna now it's like making me anxious. We got a countdown going here.
I know, right? Like I'm glad you could see it though. Um, so is there a book that you want to share that has
Yeah.
been impactful for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of goes along with stress and you supporting moms. It's called Invisible Load by Dr. Libby Weaver. I don't know if you've read that one, but I have recommended it to a lot of my clients, just because we operate from this place of stress and overwhelm, day in and day out. And so Libby Weaver in her book talks about unpacking that stress and how our early experiences have kind of programmed our brain to hang on to all of this mental stress, and that's what she refers to as your invisible load. So
Mm,
her book is about not just eliminating things that stress you out, but unpacking your own crap basically,
yeah.
and to decrease your mental load, all the things that you carry around with you all day, to decrease the overwhelm and help you cope better with daily life.
Hmm. I haven't read it. It sounds very interesting. And I learned that dogs and animals, when they get stressed, they do that shake it off thing
Yeah,
that, and we don't do that. Like,
yeah.
but so now every time when I learned that, every time my dog like shakes, I'm like, oh, what stressed you out, honey? Are you okay?
Yeah, that's your nervous system. That's not my specialty, but I've definitely seen that pop up more too, where yeah, getting up and getting movement and shaking it out can really be just like a release for your nervous system and all
Yeah.
those emotions that you're hanging on to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so the book is called Invisible Load, LOAD, not Invisible Low, LOW.
Invisible Load, LOAD. Yep, by Dr. Libby Weaver.
Very
It's a good
cool.
one.
Now,
Yeah.
where can our listeners find you if they're struggling?
Yeah, so I'm really active on social media. So I'm on Instagram. My handle is Revive Functional Med, REVIVE Functional Med. And then my website is the same. So www.revivefunctionalmed.com. So yeah, I'm super active in my messages on Instagram, and actually have a webinar, so a hormone imbalance webinar coming up on May 25th. It's totally free. That's a Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you through the exact method that I use with my clients to help them balance their hormones. So it'll be super helpful for anyone who's struggling, fatigue, stress, and burnout and hormonal issues. So
Awesome. I might have to join that personally.
yeah, it'll be good. Yep, I'm going to bring on a past client of mine, so she's going to be able to talk a little bit about her experience, and so yeah, it'll be good. I'd love to see you there.
Very cool. So, well, I appreciate you being here and pouring into our listeners. And yeah, I'm excited about the work that you're doing in the world and the people that you're helping, because just personal experience. I know this is a thing, and I'm excited for your webinar.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And likewise, I love what you're doing to support moms. We all know there needs to be more of that. So kudos to you.
I agree. Moms should support moms.
Yes.
And if they're not, I'm here.
Yeah, there you go. Shameless plug.
Yeah. All right. So we will have another episode for you next week on Imperfect Momming. And until then, keep healing. Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.